Hello, welcome back. It is a Wednesday, not a Tuesday, because we're going to be doing Ask Anne-Marie live every Wednesday for the time being. I'm glad you joined me though, because today we're talking about a topic that I know so many entrepreneurs stress about, and that is the concept of brand transitions. I know that you're probably not stressing about the concept of brand transitions, but it's highly likely that you are in a brand transition right now, or you're considering embarking on one as we speak. And the thing about transitions, in whether it's in life or in business, they can feel a little bit unsettling, because as you're transitioning, you're evolving and you don't always know what to expect on the other side of that transition. And usually just with transitions comes newness. So we're not always sure how to navigate our way through with clarity and confidence. That's why it can feel a little unsettling. And that's why I want to help you feel a little bit more confident about the brand transitions that you do decide to embark on, or maybe you'll identify in this video which of the brand transitions we're going to cover, which one that you might be in right now, and then see some examples and that will help you then to navigate your own brand transitions with confidence. Like I said, so many creative entrepreneurs' brands are ever evolving. I mean, really, with the internet, it's important for our brands to continue to evolve if we want to stay relevant, right? Things move quickly. So I want to help you to navigate that quick changing pace and the almost necessity for us to be in a pretty constant state of transition with confidence. So what I'm going to do in this video is cover 4 different types of brand transitions, and I'll explain why in a second, but 4 different types of brand transitions, and then I'll share kind of an example of what that would look like and what's really involved with each of these particular types of transitions, so that you know what all to be considering if you are thinking about evolving your brand and making that conscious choice to embark on a transition, even though you might know it's going to be a little bit scary. So the biggest reason that I want to share these different types of brand transitions with you is because I often get clients coming to me saying that I get a lot of people saying, oh, I want to pivot, which a pivot, it's the 4th type of brand transition that we're going to cover today, but it's a pretty big shift. And a lot of times they don't actually mean they need to pivot. What they actually are doing is making a much smaller shift that's a little bit less it's a smaller scale transition. It doesn't need to feel so scary, but they feel scared because they think they need to make this massive transition. So in case you've had any of those thoughts in your mind, should I make a massive shift in my brand? Do I need to do a total rebrand if I want to stay relevant? If you've had any of those thoughts regarding any type of change you want to make with your own branding, this video is going to help you to make decisions feeling empowered, feeling confident. So let's get into the first type of brand transition that we're going to cover today, and that is elevating. So each of these I'm going to articulate it in a way that describes what it is you're doing with your brand. You could call this a rebrand if you want, or a brand refresh, whatever. There's a million different ways to say it. All I'm talking about here is that you're looking to elevate your brand. So this might mean you've been in business for, a year, 2 years, and you maybe never had anybody design a logo for you. You didn't put too much thought into your website, maybe just kind of slap some stuff up online so that people had a place to go to buy things from you. But you really hadn't put much thought into your overall brand experience, the colors you're using, that sort of stuff. This is when it makes sense for you to elevate your brand. If you want to, say, raise your prices. So that's also something we're going to do throughout, is I'll let you know when does it make sense for you to embark on a brand transition like this. So when it's usually time to elevate your brand, when you're either wanting to, like I said, charge more for what it is that you do, maybe attract a little bit higher caliber client or customer. So maybe you get a lot of people trying to haggle you on your prices, or people kind of flaking out last minute on, if you're, a coach or consultant, maybe people flaking on calls or things like that. If you want to just step things up, step up the level of people that you're serving, step up your price game, step up your level of professionalism, that's most likely when it's time to elevate your brand. So what does elevating your brand look like? Well, this could be clarifying your message. So really getting clear on how it is you're speaking to your audience, the people that you want to serve. Maybe it also would involve then having, consistent brand visuals as well as it's usually good for these to be kind of professionally done, like your website, logo, maybe even font choices, things like that. That's usually a good way to elevate your brand, is to get those things consistent. Also, your offers and your overall brand experience that someone would have, when they're doing business with you, considering each part of that process as well, and really being intentional about what's happening at each phase in the process of from the moment somebody decides to buy from you, then what happens. Really, each step along the way is a brand decision that you would want to make sure gets elevated through this process of elevating your brand. I'm looking at my notes here. Oh, and then also having a consistent online presence. So you want to make sure that you're at least on a couple social media platforms. You maybe are putting out some content on a regular basis, and people just know what they can expect from you. So you've got, a legit online presence. If you're a local business, you're doing all the things that local businesses do, get found on Google and Yelp and those things. Just that would be all of what's involved with elevating your brand. Just really having that solid foundation that people know that, you're trustworthy, you're professional, all those things. They're not wondering like, oh, the site looks kind of sketchy, I'm not sure. That's all of what's involved with elevating your brand. And you could, if you love what you do, you're in the field that you love and you just want to continue, you may elevate your brand every 2 years for 10 years over. And that's totally fine. But it's probably the most basic form of a brand transition, because you're really just kind of like taking things to the next level. And another example, so I'm going to use the example of a stylist throughout this entire video as well. So an example of a stylist who wants to elevate their brand, it might be someone who's been, you're a stylist, you help people obviously pick out, I'm sure you know what a stylist is, but help people pick out outfits and accessories and things like that reflect their personality and fit their body well and all that stuff. So let's say you've been side hustling as a stylist. So maybe you take a client shopping once, one client on a weekend, and that's it. And you've been making some great extra income. And you want to go full time. You have this, little website that you just put up, one page deal where people could send you an email if they want to work with you. And now you're really ready you'd like to be able to do this full time. So now you're kind of taking things to a new level. You're going to get a website designer to help you out and really establish like your brand aesthetic and start killing it on Instagram, sharing client photos and things like that. That would be an example of elevating your brand. The next brand transition is niching. And this is when you're really just getting more specific about either the subject matter that you're known for, and this goes for product-based businesses as well. So, if it's jewelry and then you'd want to niche down to just be known for earrings, for example. But for expert businesses, creative entrepreneurs, all that, obviously niching is becoming known for something slightly more specific than what you are currently known for, or being known by a slightly more specific audience. So being known for serving a slightly more specific audience. With that same stylist example, this could, a good example of niching here would be going from being known as a stylist to being known as a stylist for personal brand-based business owners. Okay, that would be an example of niching. Now, what all is involved with niching is refining your message. So we want to get a little more clear, a little more specific and tailored to what it is that you are looking to do now, or what it is that you want to be known for that is more specific. Refining that, maybe just making some tweaks to your visuals. For some businesses, you may not even need to make many changes depending on how it is you are niching down. But tailoring those and making sure that your online brand presence aligns with the way that you're niching down. So sometimes a shift that needs to happen here is, let's say, a key element of your brand presence has been your Facebook page, but you've realized that the audience that you want to serve actually, that you're niching down to, actually hangs out more on Instagram. So that may need to be a shift that happens, right? So it's really just refining each of those components, being your online presence, your brand message, your visuals, as well as your offers and your experience. It's really refining all that so that it's really tailored now to the either specific subject matter you're covering or the specific audience you're now serving. And it could be a combination, right? It could be if you're a stylist and you now want to be known for dressing personal brand-based businesses for when they're on stage, that's also very niche, right? And when does it make sense for you to decide to niche down? Well, there's a couple of different things. Either a lot of times niching down initially is smart because it can help you to become known faster, right? Because there's a million and one stylists out there, but in terms of stylists who help people to help personal brand-based businesses who get styled for the stage, that's very niche, and there's not a lot of people doing that one specific thing. I mean, a lot of stylists may do that, but maybe aren't known for that thing. Becoming known for that thing would make you the go-to person for personal brand-based business owners if they're wanting to get styled for the stage, right? So a lot of times niching down from the beginning can be super smart if you want to get known quickly. However, it can be really hard to do that, especially for a lot of us creative entrepreneurs who are passionate about a bunch of things. We love to learn about a bunch of things, and it can be really hard we feel like we're pigeonholing ourselves, right? So I totally get that. So maybe it's that you started out broad. This is kind of what I did. If you start out broad, what you're doing, and then you decide, oh, I'm actually really passionate about this particular component of what it is I started out doing, then you may decide to kind of narrow down after. Like I said, faster way to get known is definitely to niche from the very beginning, but I do totally understand that a lot of us do start out in broader and then narrow it down as we get further and further into our businesses. So that may be the case for you. And then a very similar, not necessarily similar brand transition, but a lot of similar requirements for it would be integration. So integration is really incorporating more of who you are or what you're passionate about into, or just another facet of something else into your current brand. So I think that the easiest way for me to explain this is just to give you an example. So let's run with the stylist example. Let's say that you are a stylist and spirituality is a huge component of who you are. You are a very spiritual person. You journal, you meditate, you pray, you go to church, whatever it is. You consider spirituality a core component of who you are, and you want to incorporate more spirituality into the way that you style people. And you want that to be, you want to get to know someone on a spiritual level. You want to maybe use some of your language to help to really connect with those people who are more spiritually minded from the get-go, because spirituality is what guides you through your own process of styling people, and you want people to be on board with that throughout the journey of working with you. That would be what I'd consider to be integration. How do you know if it's time to integrate your brand? Well, there's a couple different ways. One way can be if you feel like you're hiding something. If you almost feel like I'm putting this side of myself out there, but like nobody knows about this side of this other side of me. And that's not to say if there's you've got two things going on that you need to that both sides need to be incorporated in your brand. In fact, I think that a lot of times people feel like they have to do that, and I don't believe that at all. But if you've been feeling this kind of nagging thing and almost hearing a little voice in your head telling you that you're hiding something, then it may be time to consider integrating more of who you are into what you are doing, because it's completely possible now. It's almost another form of niching down, right? It comes more like it's more internally driven versus externally driven. Niching down is looking at what's going on out here and how can I serve this little segment, and integrating is more about what's going on in here and how can I bring more of it out, right? And it ends up kind of niching you outside, if that makes sense. So integration, what is involved with that is pretty much the same thing as niching, refining your message, tweaking your visuals if necessary, tailoring your offers to incorporate more of that whatever it is that's being integrated into your brand. And then what's the last one? And then your online presence, same thing, is just maybe then the subject matter of what it is you're sharing online starts to shift or have some other undertones, or maybe you're bringing in a little more content about this other particular subject matter that you're integrating or component. So it doesn't always need to be necessarily an entirely separate subject matter, but just another undertone and facet of my brand that I've integrated into what I do is personal development. That's something I'm really passionate about. It's a core part of who I am. So it's something that I integrate into my brand messaging quite a bit. The last one, like I said, the most involved is a pivot. So a brand pivot is, you're kind of shifting directions. Now, how do you know? Let's start with how do you know it's time to pivot, right? There's a couple of different things. The first thing that you might notice that might mean it's time to pivot, if what you're doing now isn't working, right? So maybe it's not working for you, or maybe it's not working at all, meaning it's not selling, or people aren't into it. Then it may be time for a pivot. Or if you're super unfulfilled by what you do, which, by the way, that's a key indicator that you may want to integrate more of who you are into what you do, is if you feel like there's just a piece of fulfillment piece that's missing. But if you're like super unfulfilled, it may be time, but things are going well for you in business, then it also may be time to pivot. And if you're thinking, if things are going well, or maybe you've been doing what you're doing for a while and you're now wondering like what's next, that could also be another indication that it's time to pivot. And then if you have like an entirely new thing that you're passionate about, maybe a stylist who's become obsessed with public speaking, not obsessed like in a bad way, but that's something you're super into, super passionate about, and you really would love to help people with public, speaking on stages. And that's, even though you may incorporate styling into that, it's a different solution that you're now offering. So that's really what's involved with a pivot, is a new brand message, probably potentially a new aesthetic, new brand visuals, likely a new offer, a new solution that you're providing to people. So a new brand experience for your clients and customers. And then potentially, a shifted online presence, or you got to start entirely new. It just depends. So that's something that I do help a lot of my clients with, is how to shift. If they're known for one thing and they want to be known for something totally different, how do we make a gradual shift so that it feels, one, less daunting, and two, you're more successful when you do get all the way over into that shifted, pivoted place, because you've also been able to bring some of your current audience, some of your current client base with you along the way, instead of just waking up one morning and saying, by the way, I do this now, and then just saying, see you later, everybody. You can actually you can set yourself up for success and a pivot if you do it strategically. And then, like I said, an example of this would be a stylist who maybe through their own styling journey has become really into public speaking and helping people prepare for the stage and setting themselves up for success on the stage. And they've then learned to speak themselves, become an exceptional speaker themselves. So now they want to become a speaking coach. That's a very different solution that they're offering. So it would make sense for them to pivot. But this is a great example of a pivot that could be done very smoothly and seamlessly over, maybe 3 to 6 months. They could make that shift and end up set up for a lot of success once that pivot has happened. So there you have it. Those are 4 different types of brand transitions. Like I said, the first one was elevate, second one, niche, third one, integrate, and fourth one is pivot. And I know that all of them can be scary, confusing, overwhelming in their own ways. So hopefully what we talked about today helps you to identify if it is time for you to make a brand transition, and if so, which one makes sense for you. And then now you know a bit more about what is involved with that transition. So I've eliminated some of that uncertainty for you, and hopefully giving you the confidence that you need to move forward and evolve your brand in the right direction with confidence. So if you like this video, be sure to hit subscribe and let me know, hit like as well. I'm back here every single Wednesday now with new tips, insights, strategies to help you grow your business online in a way that's right for you. And of course, be sure to comment below and let me know, which brand transition do you think is in store for your business next?